the way we do right now. So that's one of the challenges that we have to overcome. And while we agree that the split shifts should be, the span of those shifts are better shorter than longer, we would note that the key safety parameters the industry has established, and again, I'm referring to the American Public Transit Association, which has hours of service recommendations for rail operators, which we think are equally appropriate for bus operators. The key thing is to have 10 hours off between shifts. So that would be, again, our proposal, and we're quite willing to negotiate that in special circumstances with the ATU. But the other major difference between our proposals is what we call the definition of the service day. Under the ATU proposal to us, the service day remains when we first put a bus out on the street in the morning, which might be 3:50 a.m., and when we last pull a bus into the garage, which might be 1:30 to 2 a.m. So generally it's a span of 22 of the 24 hours or something on that order. Don't quote me on the specific times, but you get the idea. Our view of a service day related to hours of service, and this is the definition we currently use in the rail system, and that we currently is embedded in the OAR administrative rules for rail operators, is a personal service day. So if Neil McFarland reports to drive a bus, hopefully you wouldn't be on that bus. But if he did report to drive a bus at 8 a.m., my service day would be 24 hours from that 8 a.m. And actually, the next service day doesn't begin until I've had enough rest, a specified amount of rest between the shifts on the next service day. So the ATU proposal maintains the status quo. We think it's really important to begin to move to a consistent definition of service day throughout the agency for bus operators, as well as other safety-sensitive employees, and those might include, for example, people in the control center, or people who are track workers who are out in the field. So again, our proposal is a bit more comprehensive, trying to cover more of the workforce. And again, I would note that we think the best solution is a shared one, and we're very encouraged by our conversations with the ATU to date. And we have conversations with them ongoing. ATU, by the way, did not oppose the imposition of this new hours of service day definition, when that was changed for rail operators some time ago. So we think that there's an understanding of that is a good way to mitigate the worst circumstances as we continue to negotiate some of the other hours of service provisions that we'd love to see that align ourselves ultimately with where the American Public Transit Association best practices have come to. So, and again, the ATU has acknowledged that that has worked well on the rail side, and we would concur that that has worked well on the rail side. So I would note that we do want to move to this broader approach. There are other issues besides service day, but fixing the service day would allow us to avoid entirely those double back situations that allow operators to work, for example, 20 or 22 hours in a spell without having adequate rest between those shifts. So we think that would be an important element of at least a stopgap fix. I would note that we have looked at the law. We think that we could unilaterally implement that. But again, my note is that the best approach is a shared approach, and so we continue and look forward to our conversations with the ATU. But my commitment to you is that this will get fixed. I would also note that we have asked Harris Supported to begin working on the fatigue management plan. We noted that's a best practice that a number of our couple of our leaders in the industry, one being WMATA, the Washington Metropolitan Transportation System, has really begun some work on, and so we'll be borrowing from the best practices elsewhere in the industry as well on that. So let me stop there and see if you have any questions at this point.
I bet you will ask questions. I'm pleased to see the union and management working this issue. Any comments, thoughts here? Down in
Yes, thank you, Mr. President and General Manager. I just want to just to emphasize that the board, particularly from the last meeting, Board Member Clark made a great effort about let's remove the try and let's do it. That as we look at this now, I want to work along with the union, but I want to encourage that we as TriMet would implement this change of service hours immediately and as quickly as we can do it for the safety of the people, the safety of the drivers, and above all, that we will let the community and others know that we are very serious about this issue and we are committed to not just trying, but making it happen. So I want to encourage you that if we need to unilaterally make this decision, let's do it, but also let them know that we are still willing to set the table and talk, but something needs to be done. We want to do it as quickly as possible.
You might have covered this at the last meeting when I wasn't here, so I apologize, but if you did, I think it might bear repeating. As I understand from the article, the kind of major area of difficulty here are the double-back shifts. What percentage or what number of our workforce routinely use the double-back? How widespread is this in our workforce?
It's not what I would call widespread, but I would, before I even say that, I would say that any instance of it should not be occurring. We do not want to have occur. I would say that. But let me just sort of walk through a couple of the stats that might be helpful in this regard. One is that about 81% of our operators, our workforce, are on regular schedules that they sign up for months in advance. Matter of fact, we're doing a sign up today for March. So those are signed up well in advance. And generally are not the problem associated with the double back. Now, it can occasionally occur if it affects a regular operator's regular day off and they choose to come in and are, you know, without the proper separation. But that's very, very rare. Primarily, this is a problem with the extra board, which is about 19% of our operators. And now the extra board is, if you will, insurance policy that covers sick operators or operators on vacation or otherwise not able to fulfill the run. And again, that's about 19%. And under the contract, they get the first call on extra work that comes up because of an absence. And so that's where the temptation, I think, is to do double backs more. And as we look at it, and we look at the actual numbers, that's where we see the issue. Now, I did ask Shelley Lomax, our operations executive, to run what happened the last 6 months of 2012. And this information is in this letter, by the way. But there were, out of those 6 months, there were 108,500 operator shifts during a 6-month period. We had 363 that were double backs, and we measured that by not having 7 hours between the end of one shift and the start of the next. So if you sort of get to that, that's 0.3% of all shifts. So it's not, you know, a widespread occurrence. There were 157 employees that did double back one or more time, but when it really came to it, those were like 1 occasions. And if you really get down to it, there were about 8 employees that had a repeat occurrence of a double back that really, I think, identify the problem in the most extreme situation. So it's a relatively small number of our over 1,000 operators. We get down to 8 that really would be affected by having their choices reduced related to the runs that they take. So that, I think, hopefully that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Anything else from any other members of the board? Thank you. I'm pleased to see again the union and management working this issue. It feels like you're very close, but I want to reiterate what Dr. Bethel said is that if we can't get this closed quickly, we'll look forward to some recommendations to move on our own to address this issue as quickly as possible.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else for you?
Yeah, I was going to mention a couple of other things. One is that this is really changing gears, but it's also some very good news, is that next Wednesday with Dr. Bethel, I'll be joining Congressman Earl Blumenauer, Multnomah County Commissioner Loretta Smith, and PCC Campus President L.G. Gatewood. And we'll be inaugurating the new service of our 4 new hybrids that will be joining the fleet. And they will be serving Line 72, which, as you know, to a large extent serves a number of neighborhoods that have a disproportionately higher percentage of low-income and minority riders, and are disproportionately affected in being looked by high emissions from transportation sources overall. So these low-emission, high-efficiency vehicles, I think, will be really attractive and really an enhancement to the livability of the neighborhoods that we pass through. I just would note that these are really cutting-edge technology, so that's both a warning and a promise. They're probably closer to something like the Chevy Volt, the typical hybrids, which is that they are actually propelled by an electric motor. And the diesel engine, which is part of the motor train, is not part of the motor train, but part of the bus, actually charges the batteries that run the electric propulsion. So it's a very different sort of hybrid configuration than we've ever had before here on our property, and it's relatively new. Again, I would note that these were procured under the sponsorship of the federal government, where we actually received a grant to actually buy these buses and put them into service. And so they are attempting to test some new technology and be a little on the advanced edge of hybrid technology. We'll bring the performance to you over a later time, because part of the notion is we need to learn from this and we begin to see about reliability and fuel economy. The expectation is that there'll be 20 to 50% more fuel efficient than our diesels, and so that goes into the life cycle costing analysis related to the actual fleets we'll be buying in the future. Annual fuel savings, 2,200 gallons, reduction of 95% of nitrogen oxides emitted from the vehicle. So a very efficient, clean, and much more quiet vehicle. So again, we'll bring you an update on the performance as time goes on. I think it'll be an interesting piece of technology to see mature on part of our system. I also wanted to give you a quick update on the Portland-Milwaukee Light Rail project. We've added another 270 jobs to the project in December. We're now up to 4,720 jobs, including 1,568 on-site construction jobs. We've got 343 firms contracted with the project, and 100 of those are disadvantaged business enterprises. And as you may know, TriMet was recently named Champion and Agency of the Year for 2012 by the National Association of Minority Contractors. We're very proud of this. This is in recognition of TriMet's longstanding commitment to DBE firms and reaching around 30% participation on the Portland-Milwaukee project. So again, kudos to the staff who have helped achieve that great result. On the construction side, anybody entering downtown from the south now knows that we have construction affecting NATO Boulevard. We have one lane open in each direction. But the basic story there is that NATO at that location between 200 feet south of Harrison needs to rise up about 3 feet in order to accept the tracks that will be then launched onto the new long bridge that you see now heading down to South Waterfront. We'll also be mobilizing very shortly with the expansion of Ruby Junction Rail Maintenance Facility in Gresham, so that's also a major piece. And in the OMSI district, in February, we'll see the opening of the new relocated Water Avenue, which is another major transportation link, putting that whole campus area together in a very good way. So I would also report that overall construction is on schedule and is more than a third complete. And Mr. President, that completes my remarks, with the exception that I did want to just offer my thanks for the service over the last few years of board member Steve Clark. As I'm sure you'll note, Mr. Clark has sold his residence in the district, and he'll be moving on, but I know he'll continue to be a friend of TriMet's, and I'll continue to call on him hopefully as a friend and advisor as I have over the last 20 years. So I do look forward to the new role that we will be playing together. And with that, I'll turn it to you.
All right. Well, with that, a good segue, what I'll do is defer the reports here, the rest of the reports for a moment, and maybe ask Steve to come on up. Would you mind coming up to the table here? I think the board probably wants to say a few things to you today, like how could you do this to us? Steve, we're going to miss you. I want you to know that. And just for the record, we wanted to do a couple things, obviously, to let folks talk to you. But we do have a resolution that I'd like the board to consider. I believe the board has this in front of them. Did you find it there? Okay, so it's a resolution I'm just going to go through, and we're going to actually take some formal action on this, and allow the board to make some comments, and ultimately going to turn it over to you, okay? So we have a resolution that's resolution number 13-01-09, which states, whereas the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon, TriMet, and its board of directors wish to honor Steve Clark, who served as District 3 representative and as a TriMet representative to Metro's Policy Advisory Committee. And whereas Mr. Clark is a highly regarded member of the community and has been a transit champion through creating open dialogue with stakeholders regarding transit priorities. And whereas Mr. Clark, a longtime partner and supporter of TriMet, has helped guide and shape the agency through adeptly communicating the importance of transit in the region. And whereas Mr. Clark, a successful news executive, brought his passion and dedication for community outreach and involvement to the agency. And whereas Mr. Clark, a great believer in public input and transparency, helped to expand TriMet's vision and promote open dialogue. And whereas Mr. Clark, with his long history in land use systems through his services as the chair of Governor Kulongoski's Big Look Task Force, advocated the importance of transit service and investment in local projects, and helped cultivate the 2009 transportation package adopted by the Oregon legislature, which led to additional funding for TriMet to create more connected region. And whereas Mr. Clark, long before joining the TriMet board of directors, while he chaired the regional task force called Transit Choices for Livability, helped influence how the agency would expand and improve transit throughout the region. And whereas Mr. Clark, during his tenure at TriMet, has helped guide the agency through challenging financial times and helped balance priorities through difficult financial decisions. And finally, whereas Mr. Clark has left an indelible mark by making TriMet part of this region's transit conversations, now therefore be it resolved that the TriMet Board of Directors, its president, and its staff express their gratitude to Mr. Steve Clark for his role as District 3 representative of the TriMet Board of Directors. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to Mr. Clark as an expression of our respect and appreciation. And hopefully that will be adopted in a moment. So that's the resolution. So is there anybody who would like to make a motion to approve this resolution?
Go ahead, Tiffany.
I guess I will.
Okay. And I hear a second on this. Why don't we have some discussion on the resolution? We'll do it that way, and we'll take a vote after we have an opportunity. So I'm going to start down here at this end, okay?
Okay. Steve? Damn. I've known of Steve and worked with Steve for quite some time in Washington County. And, Steve has long been an advocate of, not only good transit, but good growth policies, good economic policies. And he's always been a very positive voice. And I don't think people really realize the extent of his contributions and good that he's done for this region. You're leaving the board is a huge loss for this agency, but you're leaving the region is a huge loss for the region itself. So coming onto the board, knowing that you were on the board, gave me something additional to look forward to, because it gave me a chance to work with him much more closely than I had in previous incarnations. And you know, this is, man, and I think will continue to be such a good board, such a strong board, and you've been a very important part of that. So thank you very much, and good luck.
I don't know if I can be as eloquent as Craig, but we actually met when we joined the board, and I've learned a considerable amount from you. Some of the things that Bruce said, just wanting to make sure that TriMet is best it can be, the transparency, your true belief in the system, and making sure we continue to do the right thing, and speaking out about that, as Dr. Bethel indicated from the last meeting. So very much appreciated, and as I said to you earlier, I'm also happy for you because I know you're doing some new things in your life as well, and that's wonderful. So, but you will very much be missed, and thank you. Thank you.
Steve, the word indelible really comes to mind. I think it's the exact word that I would use if I were you, because you have such a command of the English language, but I'm not you, so I don't, so I had to read it here. But, you know, out of everything the resolution highlights, indelible is something that really, really describes your impact on this entire region. As Craig mentioned, I won't reiterate all of those things. But, you know, when I think about the great Steve Clark, and I'll use that word, great Steve Clark, I go back all the way back to your input and your influence on the East Metro region, starting out in Gresham and being in charge of the Gresham Outlook and your impact there, how positive it was, and your commitment to really being a part of the communities that you lived in and you served. It's been tremendous, and this list of accomplishments certainly don't encompass everything that I've seen and seen you a part of, and I've met you, and we've touched base many times along your track here in the region. And I've been impressed. If one day when I sell my home here in the metro area to get off the TriMet board, did I say that out loud? No, I would only hope that the list of things that I've been able to be and honored to be a part of, it looks like this. Certainly, and you know, I really appreciate the opportunity to work side by side here on the TriMet board. Not only because every time we come to the meeting, I look at your notes and actually say what you wrote down to look a whole lot smarter than I actually am. I will miss that, but your impact and your influence here on the board, specifically for me, has been something that I've appreciated, and your thoughtfulness is something that we all are going to miss. And the public doesn't always get the opportunity to witness all of the things that go on behind the scenes, the discussions, the conversations, the commitment that folks like yourself is putting into organizations like this, and the dedication as a volunteer. And you know, I want to go on record to say that not as a board member, but as a citizen of this region and this great city, this great town, this great state, you know, thank you for all that you've done, and we're going to continue to benefit from you as a state and hopefully as a region as you continue to put your efforts to bear on many of the challenges that we face, and hopefully enjoy some of the successes that we'll look at going forward. But again, I just want to extend a tremendous amount of appreciation and thank yous for everything that I've had a part of looking at you accomplishing here in the region, but specifically today in reference to what you've done here on the TriMet board, and we will continue to benefit from that going forward. But thank you.
Director Clark. That's going to be a big space for someone else to fill. I met you when you first came in as a board member, and for that time we've sat next together most of each of these meetings. We've conferred together, talked together. I've appreciated all that you've had to say, your thoughtfulness, your questions, which have caused me to go back and rethink some of the things I've heard or was thinking, and I want to thank you and applaud you for doing that. Someone said, you really are not passionate about that you are not good at. And your passion in the areas of communicating, getting the word out and outreaching to our citizens, and for what you believed about transportation was very passionate, and you are good at it. And we appreciate that. And not only is District 3 losing a great person, but as Director Stoll said, the whole district is losing a great person that has worked to help bring about great changes keep transportation moving forward, to keep citizens involved. And even though you will be a short drive away, we will try not to call upon you every board meeting, but in between, we may need to hear some of your thinking and thoughts, and I'm sure you will be more than happy to give those to us. I thank you very much for your time, for your commitment, and as you are and have made a transition in the area in which you're working now, they really don't know fully yet how great and what a great investment they've made in you, and a greater investment that you will make in them. Thank you so much for your tenure and your time.
Steve, I guess I get to say the last words here. Gosh, we've worked together for a number of years, haven't we? Probably 30, I guess. And I just want to say everybody here is spot on in terms of your competence and quiet competence is what I would say. You accomplish a lot with reason, with partnerships. Your help for the region in terms of land use, transportation, economic development are unparalleled. I don't think people understand all of the little things you've done over the years that are very important to this region. You're going to be missed here on the TriMet board. I know I will miss you, but I do have your telephone number still on my phone, so that won't get you off the hook there. You know, I wish you well in your new home in Corvallis. I think you've got a great opportunity there with OSU to do some wonderful things for them. We hope that you will stay involved in the statewide issues and the regional issues that you've done over the years, and will continue to volunteer to help us out and others throughout the state. I think you now have an opportunity to do things more on a statewide basis like you did with the Big Look. That will be just wonderful for the state as a whole. So I just want to salute you. I want to thank you, and I'm sorry I did not have a chance to work with you more, because I will miss you in our strategic communications strategy work. I will miss you in terms of the quiet voice here, the reason on many issues. And we'll just, again, miss your wise counsel and advice on a regular basis. So congratulations to you, and I'm sorry the real estate market slump did not continue for a couple more years. For us. Some people here like to sell real estate. So with that, I have a motion and I have a second to approve resolution 1301-09, which is honoring and recognizing Steve Clark for his tenure on the TriMet board. With that, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? I hear no abstentions either. The motion is approved unanimously. So, Mr. Clark, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, members of the board. I'm just grateful. It wasn't